I've listened to Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel for 5 years.
And I listened to it once yesterday.
Welcome to Spin It. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Spin It, the record ranking podcast for people who'd rather be listening to music. I'm James, and with me is Connor. Oh, he beat me to it.
I speak for myself.
As you should, and please continue to do so.
Sometimes I let other people speak for me when I'm too lazy to speak.
I see.
I enter puppet mode, ventriloquist mode.
Right, where somebody says the words and you just are there moving your lips.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. I hope you're in Connor mode now, at least.
I'll never tell.
We'll probably be able to tell.
Simon and Garfunkel, huh?
Yeah, Simon and Garfunkel.
Wow, both of them.
Both of them on one album.
Not like Daryl Hall
and
John Oates.
That's it, yeah.
Separate.
Big
divide between that and.
That's right. Hall & Oates didn't like to be called Hall & Oates, but Simon and Garfunkel, boy, they also don't like to be called Simon and Garfunkel at a certain point.
I'm really glad we're finally doing this episode, because now we finally have unlocked another secret episode. You know, kind of like how we collected all the members of Boy Genius.
Yeah.
Before doing them.
Well, what's this one unlock?
Well, now we can do American comedy folk duo Garfunkel and Oates. Now that we've done Hall & Oates and Simon and Garfunkel.
Daryl Hall and John Oates and Simon and Garfunkel. Now we get
Garfunkel and Oates.
Reasonable, actually. I hadn't even crossed my mind. Well, that's a bridge over troubled water we'll cross when we come to it. First, we have to cross this bridge over troubled water. Do you know Simon and Garfunkel? Aside from, like, nominally?
I've been known to visit their friend.
Their friend? Who's their friend?
Darkness.
Oh, yeah? I can't believe I didn't see that coming. Probably because it was dark out. I walked right into that one.
Yeah.
Do you hear me? Do you hear how funny that was to me? Listen close. Sorry, that's the sound of silence.
All right. You can't not have gotten my joke and then try to feel better about it by trying to make a joke off of my joke, where you call my joke bad.
Trying to make my joke about the same song.
Yeah.
Well, look, I just forgot. It hadn't occurred to me that that's the direction you were headed, so I'm a little jealous that you got there first.
Yeah, and you're lashing out. I understand.
Yeah, I know. This is our troubled water.
Feels like we're back in the year of vengeance.
No, we're going to keep the customer satisfied today. That's the goal. So you've been known to dwell with darkness? Is that what?
Well, every night when I go to bed.
Right, of course. Turn out the lights.
I said visit their friend, is what I said.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It is a good way to sleep. But like, what about their music?
Oh, yeah. I know some of the big ones.
Okay. Do you know any, like, solo stuff from later on?
Who's to say?
Only you. Or your puppeteer.
No, not me. You know me, I'm bad at knowing who actually does songs that I like.
That's a good point.
So there's a chance that, like, there's a favorite song of mine out there that's by one of them. I just don't know.
That's true. Is Bridge Over Troubled Water, like, totally new? Can't be.
Not totally new. No.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's no way. It wasn't totally new to me, and I didn't think I knew any Simon and Garfunkel, period, when I started listening to it. I feel like you got to know the big ones. You know, the Cecilias and the Bye Bye Love, I feel like I'd heard before, and Bridge Over Troubled Water, the biggies. I knew them, and I know them now, too.
Do you think there's smoke on the water that is troubled?
If the bridge is on fire.
Oh.
Like the smoke on the troubled water. Casinos burning down.
That's it. I'm liking this idea that, like, this is all a shared universe around this one casino.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back there before too long. I made notes about Montreux, Switzerland in a near future episode. Oh, we're out of Mixtober too, by the way.
Wow, Mixtober, come and gone.
Come and gone, and now we're into November, the month where we don't have any Spin It related puns.
Mixvember.
Now, see, we do this every single year. Hasn't worked yet.
Novtaper.
Hasn't worked yet. Well, when you talk about Simon and Garfunkel.
Novspember.
That was particularly bad. There's two obvious places to start. One of those places is Paul Simon. You lost power? Wow. Well, I'm hitting stop. Whoops, we're back. Hey.
Whoa, hey.
Connor.
I'm sorry about all that.
Turns out Connor got an unexpected visit from Simon and Garfunkel's friend, Darkness. His power went out.
Darkness just let itself into my place. Didn't even
knock.
It just came on in like it owned the place.
But yeah, we rescheduled the latter part of this recording. We're back.
We are back.
And ready to talk about Simon and Garfunkel.
Hey, I've had some time to reflect.
Oh, yeah? Done a lot of soul searching in the last, apparently, 2 seconds for the audience.
Yeah. Well, you said that there was no good spin it pun for November.
Oh, no. Yeah. That's what you reflected on?
Yeah, I've come with another entry.
Okay, I'll take one more submission.
No spinver?
Veto.
Oh, because it's got like the no for November, but no spin because it's going to be like an all fact month or something. I don't know.
Like no spin November?
Yeah. I think no spinver is the best option we have.
And it's not a good one. So that's why we don't do it. Case in point.
Well, I'll keep thinking on it.
If you had all that time to think while your power was out and you didn't come up with anything, I'm sure now that you're distracted, it'll go much better.
I do my best thinking while distracted.
You said doo-doo.
Case in point.
Let's talk about Simon and Garfunkel.
Well, before we can talk about Simon and Garfunkel, I think we need to talk about Simon.
That's right.
And then talk about Garfunkel.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about them together. But Paul Simon makes up the Simon part of Simon and Garfunkel. What a guy.
There should be a band that calls themselves like the two last names together, but then go by like, hey, I'm Paul Simon and I'm Garfunkel in this band. Like they like switched personas or whatever.
Oh, I see. So like
Paul Simon is the Garfunkel member.
His stage name is Garfunkel.
Yeah, exactly. And then Garfunkel's stage name would be Simon.
That'd be so confusing. Why?
I don't know, just mainly to be confusing. There's not really much other point to it.
Yeah, they didn't do it like that. They did have some stage names, so we'll get to in a minute.
Boy, did they.
But they did not make stage names after each other.
Missed opportunity.
Some would say. But Paul Simon, actual Paul Simon and stage name Paul Simon, was born in October of 1941 in a Hungarian Jewish household. He was born in New Jersey, but he mostly grew up in New York City. His father was a band leader and a double bass player, so Paul grew up loving music, and he also loved playing a little baseball. The rumor that I found on the street is that Paul Simon actually was inspired to start singing himself after he saw Garfunkel, who you don't know yet, but we'll meet in a minute. He saw Garfunkel perform in a school talent show, and he was like, man, that Garfunkel guy, he's getting all the ladies. He said, maybe singing is a good way to pick up a bunch of girlfriends for myself. And so that's what got him into his career as a singer. Meanwhile, across town, we've got Art Garfunkel, one of the best last names maybe in show business.
Have we tried Spinvember?
I thought you were about to make a comment about Garfunkel.
Sorry, I was doing my distracted thinking.
Right. Arthur Garfunkel.
That didn't answer my question. Have we tried Spinvember?
No. Yes. We didn't like it.
We didn't like it or you didn't like it?
The world didn't like it.
Oh, fair enough. Anyway, Garfunkel, not Paul Simon's stage name.
No, Garfunkel, I feel like he was just destined to be famous with a name like Art Garfunkel.
It's a pretty good name.
Yeah, I know.
I think anything that starts like Gar has a high chance of success. Garfunkel.
Garfield, the cat.
Garfield. Well, I was thinking Andrew Garfield, but
oh, Garfield the guy, yeah.
Yeah, well, cat's not real.
But he was successful.
That's true.
Can you name any other examples of a successful Gar?
Successful Gars.
Google's not going to know what you mean by that.
There's the famous alligator Gar.
Well, I stand corrected.
Your Haline Rayfin fish in the clade Ginglimodi.
Oh, yeah, the fish that's named Gar.
It is the largest species in the Gar family, so you could argue makes it the most successful and well known.
Well, it's a whole family of Gar fish. It's a whole species of fish. Anyway, this isn't Gar the fish, this is Gar the Funkel. Well, this successful Gar, Art Garfunkel, was born in November of 1941.
Whoa! Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday to Artie. That's great.
My main man, Funkel.
Funkel?
Yeah.
My fun uncle, Funkel Garfunkel.
Funkel Gar.
Funkel Garfunkel. That's what his siblings' kids would call him. Good grief.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has nieces or nephews, but that would be a missed opportunity if they don't call him that. Anyway, he was the middle child in a Romanian Jewish family. His dad was a first-generation American, and Art got his first taste of performing music singing in synagogue and as a cantor. He loved singing so much that he would actually even just sing to empty hallways at school. He would just roam around the empty halls and sing because he liked the echo. He said after everyone else had left, I'd stay behind in the school and enjoy the echo sound of the stairwell tiles and sing Unchained Melody and You'll Never Walk Alone, learning to love this Goosebumps song from the tender age of 5. And actually his dad gifted him a tape recorder when he was young, and so he spent hours singing and playing back his own voice in this tape recorder so he could work on his vocal technique.
Oh, wow.
And unlike Paul, who was a baseball guy. Art was a basketball guy.
Ooh, so the rivalry started early, before they even knew each other.
Yeah, it did. Maybe that's the final wedge that drove between them.
Sounds like it was maybe the first wedge.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, it was like a ticking time bomb, right?
True.
They didn't know that it would be the thing that would drive them apart, but sooner or later the basketball-baseball divide reared its ugly head. But before they fell out, they had to get together.
They had to fall in.
They fell in. Simon and Garfunkel fell in and became fast friends at age 11.
Wow.
When they were cast in their 6th grade production of Alice in Wonderland.
That's around when we became friends.
It is. And funny enough, it's right around when we were cast together in a production
of Alice in Wonderland. Wait, does that mean we're going to have a falling out?
I hope not.
You're a baseball guy and I'm not. So, I mean...
Yeah, I don't like basketball.
I don't sport ball.
I think the fact that we can maybe identify it early, like we could catch it and treat it before it's a problem.
Maybe.
We can use Simon and Garfunkel as an example to build a better friendship.
We are two guys who met around the age of 11. We're in a production of Alice in Wonderland and are now doing a thing together for like audience consumption.
Making an entertainment product.
Yeah, we are making an entertainment product. I mean, I think the writing's on the wall. I'm going to fall out before you have a chance to fall out. That way I can say I'm the one that initiated the fallout. Like if you think your significant other's going to break up with you, so you break up with them first. So you'd be like, yeah, I broke up with you. I won.
You can't fire me, I quit.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, Simon and Garfunkel, there's still a lot of road ahead of them before then. There's still a lot of troubled water under the bridge before we get to the point where they, call it quits. Spoiler alert, that's coming. When they were still kids, though, by age 13, they were performing together at school dances, and Paul wrote his first song for the two of them to sing. He called it The Girl for Me. His dad actually helped him transpose the chords and the lyrics and write down like a sheet music piece for it, which actually now lives in the Library of Congress. So I bet they never would have guessed that back in the day. It's pretty fun. It'd be like if the Library of Congress put our first draft of the Spin It logo in there.
Pretty good draft. I think it's worthy.
I don't know. But the song and the boys quickly turned into the, quote, neighborhood hit. So they decided to keep going, and this is where they start to pick up stage names. They wanted to go by Tom and Jerry, like the cartoon cat and the cartoon mouse.
That always fight with one another. I mean, they really just...
They really hit it on the head here. They're always at odds.
I think they knew.
Right. Actually, the cartoon came out more than a decade earlier, so they're lucky they didn't get sued. But really, they were just kids. Like, they weren't big enough when they were officially Tom and Jerry starting out.
Yeah, they weren't sue-worthy yet.
No. And actually, their full stage names were a little more nuanced because Garfunkel became Tom Graff. Yeah, his last name was Graff because he was a mathematician. He was a math nerd. So he's like, what if my last name was Graff? And then Simon became Jerry Landis because Landis was the last name of one of his girlfriends at the time. So no way that could go wrong. But Tom and Jerry hit the road. They were really inspired by bands like the Everly Brothers, and they leaned into the two-part vocal harmony that the Everly Brothers kind of trademarked that would become Simon and Garfunkel staples in due time.
Sure.
The partnership led to a few minor hits at first, like Hey Schoolgirl, a song that actually went to number 49 on the pop charts. That's the song that got them signed to the indie label Big Records at just 15 years old. They even actually got to headline Dick Clark's American Bandstand with Jerry Lee Lewis that year, which is huge.
Oh, that's cool.
I know, right? That'd be like if our podcast, we got to record a podcast on Dick Clark's American Bandstand with Jerry Lee Lewis. Maybe the parallelism kind of stops at some point.
Yeah, probably. I mean, keep going. There's kind of some more parallels.
Uh-oh. Well, Simon and Garfunkel stayed close through their college years.
Like we did?
Yeah, that's true. Garfunkel, the math nerd, studied architecture and history at Columbia University.
Like you did?
Simon studied math at Queens College.
Kind of like I did.
Yeah, that's fair. Paul Simon even did a semester of law school, actually. And they each did a little solo work in that time.
Like we did?
I mean, we talked about how Paul Simon got connected with Carole King and Jerry Goffin on our Tapestry episode, which was number 152. So we know Paul Simon was around too. And Garfunkel made a few solo songs. It was the whole time. But in 1963, after graduation, they were together again at long last.
Together forever. Come on, let's write some songs.
Yeah. They changed their names again to Kane and Gar.
A lot of successful Gars out there.
He's just shortened he dropped his Funkle. He decided to go Funkleless for a while. While they were Kane and Gar, they started leaning into folkier music in the home of urban folk, Greenwich Village. There, they debuted a new song that they had just written called Sound of Silence. Maybe you heard of it. Maybe you heard us make jokes about it before.
Never heard of it.
That is not even funny.
Just can't hear something that's silent.
Well, that is true. It's on the Alanis Morissette level of ironic. But that song sure turned some heads, and specifically, it turns the head of Tom Wilson, the same Tom Wilson that did so much work for the Velvet Underground, who we just talked about in episode 169, and also Bob Dylan on Highway 61 from episode 61.
Wow.
Small world. It did not take long for Tom Wilson to get the pair signed to Columbia Records, and it came along with a name change to the most obvious and iconic of their names, simply Simon and Garfunkel. Again, take notes, Daryl Hall and John Oates. It can be done.
Maybe they did take notes. I mean, well, very successful.
Maybe they looked at Simon and Garfunkel and said, we can do better. You might be right.
A little more separation's healthy.
Yeah, boundaries, said Daryl Hall and John Oates. That and doesn't mean anything. But Simon and Garfunkel's first album, Wednesday Morning 3 a.m., came out in early 1964 to pretty limited success.
It bombed.
It bombed. When I say it came out to limited success, usually that's my polite way of saying it flopped.
No success.
Not no success. Not no success, because it does feature the sound of silence.
Yeah, but it really, I mean, from what I understand, nobody really cared.
No. Well, they're an unknown duo out of New York City.
Yeah.
Where there's 100,000 unknown duos.
Well, the original version that they released, I believe, didn't have any, like, guitar with it. It was just, like, them.
On the Sound of Silence?
It was almost a cappella.
Yeah, it was way stripped back, and it does...
And then they went, maybe we should add some instruments. And then people were like, oh, okay.
Maybe we should make music?
Okay, now I can dig instruments.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does feature other stuff, too, aside from just the Sound of Silence, right? They have covers and arrangements of songs like Go Tell It on the Mountain, Bob Dylan's The Times They Are A-Changin', but the record, it's by no means a hit. So Art goes back to school. Paul spends a lot of time living across the pond in England, and he put out a solo album himself. And that was kind of the way it was going to be. They weren't really expecting to come back for anything until one day a radio DJ finds The Sound of Silence, and he starts spinning it on the air. It was a belated overnight hit. So Simon and Garfunkel said, hey, we're getting some traction. We're going to come back together and throw together this record of old songs that we have and cuts from Simon's solo album, stuff that's, sitting in storage. We're going to throw it all together, and we're going to make an LP called The Sounds of Silence. Unlike the unremarkable Wednesday Morning 3 a.m., Sounds of Silence absolutely ripped its way to number 21 on the Billboard Top LPs chart, and that is more like it. After the major crunch that they undertook to get Sounds of Silence done, they decided to take their time with another release, and so they got really, really intimately involved in the recording and the producing process. It led to their record Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme, which Simon and Garfunkel felt was kind of their big arrival on the scene as major players in folk music. And that's not so far off. Director Mike Nichols, like film director Mike Nichols, fell in love with the band while he was making his infamous 1967 movie, The Graduate. Do you know The Graduate?
I am The Graduate.
Well, no, but like the movie The Graduate. Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me, aren't you? Right? The Graduate?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I figured. I've never seen the whole thing, but even I've seen that scene of it. But while Mike Nichols is making The Graduate, he is constantly spinning Simon and Garfunkel. He even used their music as a placeholder in early edits of the film. And eventually Nichols just says, you know what? This is better than anything original that we do. Simon and Garfunkel already have nailed this. I don't want to add anything to this movie. So he reaches out to the band to make the official soundtrack for The Graduate. I think initially they were contracted for 3 new original songs for the movie, but Simon was having a lot of trouble writing them. It was slow going, so he only got through 1. A U.S. history-inspired song about a former First Lady. It was called Mrs. Roosevelt. And Nichols said, no, I'm going to take Mrs. Roosevelt, and we're going to not make it about Mrs. Roosevelt. We're going to make it about Mrs. Robinson. And so, their third studio album, The Graduate, and one of their biggest hits, In Mrs. Robinson, were born. You've heard Mrs. Robinson, right?
Uh-huh.
I thought so. What do you think of it?
I like it.
Well, here's to you.
Hey, now. Can't be trying to pull sneaky one on me?
No, what? You already got the ultimate sneaky one off earlier.
That's why I'm on high alert for you to be trying to reclaim the throne.
Yeah, that's fair. It's going to take a big, solid joke to reclaim it, though. I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Yours was just too good.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, on their 4th record, Bookends, Simon and Garfunkel got even more meticulous, if it was even possible. They spent as many as 50 hours on a single track. They recorded vocal parts basically note by note until they decided it was perfect. And it paid off again. Bookends was a hit record, and it sold more than 5 million units pretty quickly.
It's a lot of units.
It's a lot of units. And Columbia Records even charged a premium extra $1 for the album. It sold for $5.79 instead of $4.79.
And I bet you all the music people were like, oh my God, I'm not going to pay $5.79 for an album.
You would think so, but they sold millions of copies. That's how big of a hit it was. But between Bookends and the movie soundtrack, by early 1968, Simon and Garfunkel are pretty much considered rock music's biggest duo act.
Wow. Which is kind of crazy that they're the biggest duo act in rock music.
Yeah.
Like, I don't normally think of rock when I think of Simon and Garfunkel.
No, it's
not normally where I go.
Definitely folkier. A lot folkier than just straight up anything rock. Some of their songs maybe get a little close, but...
Yeah, I mean, they get close. They get a little folk rocky.
Hey, well, and you have to remember it's the 60s, too.
But just to think, oh, this is the peak of rock music right here. Simon and Garfunkel. Knowing what we have now.
Well, there aren't that many duo acts out there in the first place.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Bookends is...
part of the bookend. It's the beginning of the bookend.
That's right. Bookends kind of bookends their partnership a little bit because it starts to fragment the pair. Baseball season ends, basketball season begins, and and also the real reason that things start to go down is they take a pair of acting roles in another Nichols movie called Catch-22, except Paul Simon's part gets written out of the script entirely.
Oof.
Yeah, I know. So Garfunkel says, hey man, I really like this movie. I'm going to keep acting. I'm going to keep doing the movie. You don't have enough songs for the next album anyway. You stay here. I'm going to go be in a movie. Thanks. And tensions start to mount. Simon's itching to go solo. He said, at that point, I just wanted out.
I want to go solo, but Garfunkel's got the cooler name.
Yeah.
Try to figure out how to get it.
Who knows?
Maybe I can trick him into going by Gar again so that Garfunkel becomes available.
Yeah. Well, they pretty much say this is going to be the end. They even had gone so far as to plan out what they thought would be their farewell tour. But thankfully, they had a little tiny bit more gas in the tank to make one last record. And that record is Bridge Over Troubled Water. The title could not be more apt. This is them crossing the last of their troubled water into the rest of their careers. And we'll talk about it in a minute. Not separated, but pretty much. It was a tough record to write, to say the least. Paul Simon was working on songs for almost 2 years leading up to Bridge Over Troubled Water. They recorded most of it in November of 1969, which is another reason it's great to do this episode in November. And it was actually their first and only record to feature credited additional musicians, including drummer Hal Blaine, bassist Joe Osborne, and keyboardist Larry Knechtel, who would all go on to be members of the famed group of studio musicians known as LA's Wrecking Crew. If you don't know the Wrecking Crew, look them up and look at songs that they've worked on, because you've definitely heard their music. They play on everything. Also, fun fact, one of Hal Blaine's drum kits is on display at the Musicians Hall of Fame in Nashville. I saw it just the other week.
About a week ago.
Definitely more than that.
Oh.
But a few weeks ago, he used that kit on records for Sinatra and the Beach Boys and the Ronettes and the Monkees. And it was really cool to go see. But after years of writing and recording and care and work, Bridge Over Troubled Water came out in January of 1970 to mixed critical reviews, but it was sure a big seller. It charted in 11 countries and hit number 1 in 10 of them, including the US and the UK, and it stayed on the charts for 85 weeks, more than a year. It sold 1.7 million copies and went platinum in 3 weeks. And then it went on to be the best-selling album of 1970. And then it went on to be the best album of 1971. And then it went on to be the best album of 1972. It very quickly turned into the best-selling album of all time to that point, and it held the title until Thriller, which is still the current champion, by the way, until Thriller came along in 1982. Even today, 54 years later, Bridge Over Troubled Water is still right around that number 50 slot for the best-selling albums of all time. It's sold more than 25 million units worldwide.
I wish we had those kind of units.
25 million units? I mean, if we make enough episodes, you can give out that many units, 1 through 10 at a time.
How many units do you think I'm at total, if you added them all up?
We could solve that pretty quickly.
I'm going to find out. I'll work on that while you keep going. I'll do some quick maths.
Oh, great. Well, but that's the fan response, right? Fans are buying the album in droves. Critics, though, actually saw it as a step down from Bookends. Steve Horowitz said, one can hear the incipient breakup of the band in the way that they separately perform the material. And, unfortunately, he was pretty right. After Bridge came out, Art Garfunkel took another acting job, and Paul Simon got to work on another solo album. In fact, it was his first of 14 post-Simon and Garfunkel records, and it would come out in 1972. Garfunkel would be hot on his tail, putting out his first of 10 solo records in 1973. And their split, when it happened, was pretty much total. From being friends and musical collaborators since middle school, they were only speaking to one another maybe 3 or 4 times a year after this breakup, which is hard to fathom.
I can't believe that's what's going to happen to us.
That's what we're headed for?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 people that have spoken multiple times a week for years.
I mean, it's weird when you and I don't talk for a day.
That's true. Or at least exchange a meme or two.
Yeah, sometimes that's all it is a meme or two, or a funny joke, or a update about podcast stats. But still, it's pretty daily communication.
Yeah, and that's what Simon and Garfunkel had for a while. And then they just went pretty cold turkey, no contact. It wasn't the absolute end of the road, though.
All right, I figured it out. I have a number.
Oh, okay, good. This is a good interlude. How many units have you given?
I have given... Well, here, let's play. Guess that unit amount. How many units how many units do you think I've given out?
Well, let's say, and this is episode 173. Did you count all the way up through 171?
No, I've just counted through what's been released as of the time of this recording.
Okay. In that case, we're looking at 169 episodes, and I think your average score is probably close to like a 7.2.
Okay.
So, if we've got 169 episodes times a 7.2, wow, I would say you've given out roughly 1,217 units.
That's honestly pretty darn close. I mean, that was good.
Really?
You were a little high on the average, I think, there.
Maybe. I just know you give a lot of 8s and 9s lately.
Yeah. Total number of units given? 1,174.
Oh, I was off by like 50 units maybe. That's less than 5 episodes.
Yeah, less than 50. I mean, you were off by like 30-something.
I'll take that. That's pretty great.
40-something? I don't know. Yeah, definitely less than 50.
I guess if you factor in the episodes that we've recorded and not released, I'm probably spot on.
You're probably, well, I don't think I've given out 50 worth of units over. I'd have to be giving them like all 10s.
Well, I only...
to get the 50.
True, but I'd be a lot closer.
Yeah. We're well on our way towards those kind of units.
We'll be there. Yeah, one day we'll hit the 25 million.
Yeah.
We're well on our way at 1,200. Okay. Well, back into Simon and Garfunkel and their breakup here, right? They are not speaking much, but it's not the end of the road completely, right? They did try to work together in the future. Collaboration was pretty hard, though. And throughout the 1970s, it only produced a couple of original songs. And by a couple, I just mean 2.
That is a couple.
It is.
Otherwise, if it was 3, it'd be a thruple.
And they released a thruple of songs in 1970. Yeah, right. They did perform also, though. It wasn't just recording they tried to do. They appeared together on Saturday Night Live, and they hosted a massive free concert in Central Park to a record-setting crowd of 500,000 fans.
Wow.
The live album of that show, by the way, went double platinum. But they tried to ride that success into a world tour, and it did not work. They drifted apart, and they did not speak again. They tried another record, too, that fell through, and that one turned into Simon's solo album, Hearts and Bones. It just wasn't gelling like it used to. But, I mean, in their own words, apparently, they still got along, quote, like when we were 10 years old, when they weren't trying to make music. So, interesting.
Hey, you know what? That's the silver lining. Someday, we'll still be able to get along like we were 10 years old as long as we're not trying to podcast.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good silver lining. But that also wasn't always the case. They did a tour again in 1993, and then they quit speaking. They did a 40-date reunion tour in 2003, and quit speaking. They played for 600,000 people at the Colosseum in Rome, and quit speaking. They toured Australia and Asia in 2009, and they quit speaking. Like, you'd be hard-pressed to find a band that did more and spoke less than Simon and Garfunkel from 1970 to present. It's unreal.
It seems like every time they were like, we could make some good money. Let me reach out to them. And then they'd speak, and then they'd try to make music, and it would all fall apart.
It would all fall apart. I bet they were always getting along like they were 10 again, and they said, you know what was so bad about that? The good old days.
What's so bad? We should go on tour.
And then they play one show for...
Smash cut, jump cut to just like everything's on fire, and they're screaming. And
right. 2/3 of a million people saw us at the Coliseum, and we just can't handle it anymore.
2/3 of a million people saw us perform at the Coliseum, and you were one too many.
That's it. Yeah, yikes. But they did finally officially land the plane on pretty hard terms in 2018. Paul Simon announced that he was retiring from touring altogether, much to the dismay, actually, of Garfunkel. Garfunkel said, "How can you walk away from this lucky place on top of the world, Paul? What's going on with you, you idiot? How could you let that go, jerk?" Simon, though, saw it through a very different lens. He said, "Quite honestly, we don't get along. So it's not like it's fun. If it was fun, I'd say, okay, sometimes we'll go out and sing old songs in harmony. That's cool. But when it's not fun and you're going to be in a tense situation, then I have a lot of musical areas that I like to play in. So that'll never happen again. That's that." And that was that for Simon and Garfunkel. That was the end.
Until they get offered a lot of money.
Right. Yeah.
Then it will magically be fun again.
And then maybe they can get to 1 million people to go see them play somewhere and never speak again. But for all they're not speaking, they sure do have a lot of awards. Oh boy. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a duo in 1990. In their acceptance speeches, once again, they took very different approaches to those. Garfunkel said that Paul was the person who most enriched my life by putting those songs through me. And Paul said, "Arthur and I agree about almost nothing, but it's true, I have enriched his life quite a bit." And then they played their set and they left and quit speaking, of course. And when Paul Simon was inducted as a solo artist into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a decade later, in 2001, he would go on to say, "I regret the ending of our friendship. I hope that someday before we die, we will make peace with each other." And then he waited and then he said, "No rush." So there's still a little bit of bad blood there bubbling underneath the surface. But Simon and Garfunkel have also earned a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Grammys in 2003. They ended up with 9 Grammys over the years, including Album of the Year for Bookends and Bridge Over Troubled Water. They got Song and Record of the Year for both Mrs. Robinson and Bridge Over Troubled Water. And they earned 4 Grammy Hall of Fame awards on Bridge, for Mrs. Robinson, for Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme, and The Sound of Silence. They also made it into the Vocal Group Hall of Fame in 2006, and Rolling Stone put 4 Simon and Garfunkel records in their 500 greatest albums of all time, and 3 songs in their list of the 500 greatest songs as well. So yeah, that's Simon and Garfunkel. What a time. It was a comedy, it was a tragedy, there was troubled water, there was a bridge over it, and now it's time for Fact or Spin.
It is time for Fact or Spin.
Yup, we'll just have to see how it goes, I guess.
Hey, it's me, the Mixtaper.
Hello, Mixtaper. How you doing today?
Happy no spinber.
Connor tried to do it and it didn't catch on. It's not going to catch on when you try and do it.
Do what?
No spinber.
Oh, see, now you've said it, so it's going to catch on.
No, I don't like it. That's why it's not going to catch on. Guess who edits these episodes?
I'm worried that Connor's misreading this, and it's not going to be you two that had the falling out. It's going to be me and him who have the falling out.
Oh, that actually would be sad. I mean, you are roommates.
Yeah.
You'd have to get a new place. Or would he move? Who's on the lease?
Definitely not me.
Oh, good to know. Well, that means you'd be the one that has to get a new place.
Think I'm going to sign a document, give them my signature? Absolutely not.
Oh, well, that's probably a good point.
Well.
Well. What Simon and Garfunkel facts do we have today?
I don't know if I have any Simon and Garfunkel facts, but I have some Jasper and Jinx facts.
Uh-oh.
That's your first one there.
They used other stage names?
Yeah. On top of their other stage names, they also had Jasper and Jinx.
What are Jasper and Jinx?
Their names.
But, like, what do they signify? You know, they did Tom and Jerry, and there was, like, Tom Graff and Jerry, girlfriend last name. Like, they were, you know, names with meaning. What's the meaning behind Jasper and Jinx?
Garfunkel went by Jinx, and Simon went by Jasper.
Yeah.
As for the significance, I don't know if there was much of one. They were kind of young.
How young?
High school?
Okay.
College? It was their first name before they were known as Tom and Jerry or Simon and Garfunkel or any of the other ones you named.
I mean, they already were known as Simon and Garfunkel, to be fair, just in a different kind of way.
Yeah. I'm telling you, their first stage names, Jasper and Jinx.
I see. Why'd they change in the long run? What led them from that to Tom and Jerry?
I think it just probably sounded better. And that's my way of saying I don't really know. So their first performance as a duo was under the name Jasper and Jinx.
I see.
He says that, sounding skeptical.
He's contemplating.
And now he's gone silent. I recognize the sound.
Well, I'm never gonna get one back if you keep doing it. And another Sound of Silence joke that was too good for me to counter, and I didn't even prepare for.
Sorry. I mean, your biggest counter was not picking an album that had that frickin' song on it.
I mean, this one doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. That's your biggest counter.
Oh, I tried my best to avoid the jokes. Yeah.
Yeah. But I made them anyways. Anyway, Jasper and Jinx.
Yeah, I think I believe this.
He believes it.
Obviously, they're no strangers to stage names. They did a few.
Of course.
So, I think Jasper and Jinx could happen. The only problem I have with this is that one of the names is Jinx, and in, like, middle school game on the playground rules, if you jinx somebody, well, you can't talk. And you know what Simon and Garfunkel didn't do a lot of. So, I mean, that's my one drawback, but I don't think I'm going to let that be a hurdle.
That's funny. That is funny. So locking in fact.
Factoroni. Factoroni and cheese.
Ooh, that would have also been a good stage name.
Yeah, it would have, but it wouldn't have.
Which one do you think would be cheese?
I think Garfunkel looks like a Factoroni guy.
You think? I was going to say Garfunkel sounds like it could be like a exotic type of cheese.
Like kind of cheese?
Yeah.
You're right. That's true. But Paul Simon writes all these cheesy love songs.
Oh, that's true. Regardless, this is a bona fide spin.
Oh, man. Well, that's not a bad stage name.
Yeah, well, it was the original name of a famous duo.
Oh, no.
Just not Simon and Garfunkel. It was the original name of Tom and Jerry.
That's why I knew this name. That's why you got me. It's because I was like, I've definitely heard this. Like, I definitely recognize this pair of names.
I was worried. I started with it because I was worried that you might have known what I was pulling there.
Oh, and I even knew when I saw that Simon and Garfunkel had been Tom and Jerry, and I remembered that, I was like, surely he's going to come with a Tom and Jerry line.
Uh-huh. I was like, ew.
Oh, I knew that. Oh, you know what happened? I would have known that, and then Connor's power went out, and we had to wait to come back and record, and so I was in the wrong headspace. I was a little farther removed from that fact.
Is this a good time to tell you that I tripped the breakers in Connor's apartment?
You flipped all the Connor's power off in the middle of our recording? Oh, no.
Exactly, so that this would happen. I masterminded it all.
Oh, I should have known.
I'm the one that let darkness into the apartment. He and I go way back. Well, next up on the list, Garfunkel almost won the golden ticket.
Another Willy Wonka fact? Is that what this is?
Uh-huh, yeah.
You know, in all these weeks it's been since your last Willy Wonka fact, which may have been like Lights in episode 74, winning Gene Wilder's cane. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that's the only one, right? Or is it there have been more than one?
Well, I think there's been maybe another one too somewhere down the line, but I still haven't seen any of the Chocolate Factory Cinematic Universe movies, so.
Yeah, well, if you had seen the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you almost could have seen it starring Garfunkel.
I mean, that'd be interesting.
Instead of Gene Wilder.
Oh, instead of Gene Wilder, he was up for the main role.
Uh-huh, yeah.
When did this movie come out? I don't even know.
1971.
Okay. Well, why doesn't Garfunkel get the role? Does he try out for it and obviously Gene Wilder gets it, or does something else happen?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
He auditioned for it, and they decided to go Gene Wilder. Rightfully so.
Who can blame him?
Gene Wilder is like perfect casting.
I can't tell you, but that seems true. Did he have any particular interest in this movie, or was it just like something he could go do?
It was just part of it. He was, in his acting career. It was something he was interested in doing.
Sure.
There's singing in it,
Yeah.
Gene Wilder sings some pretty folky, creepy songs.
Well, that's fair. I think this one is not true.
This one is not true, you think?
Yeah, I think this one's a spin.
Any reason why?
No.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I'm not feeling it. I'm not getting the vibe that it's true. He did some acting.
Well, that's a real shame.
I don't know. Yeah, is it a real shame?
I don't know. You gonna lock in for me real fast?
I would like to lock in spin.
That's a real shame, because this is indeed a spin.
Real shame for you.
It's a real shame. It's a double shame for me, because I thought I was gonna get you back-to-back Tom and Jerry spins.
What do you mean with Tom and Jerry spins?
Well, because in 2017 they released Tom and Jerry, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, an animated version of the movie starring
What?
Tom and Jerry.
Wait, that exists? Who? Why? Who?
Yeah.
Who's the audience for that?
It's children.
Okay, well, fair.
Yeah, it basically Tom and Jerry like chase each other into the candy shop that Charlie's in when he gets the golden ticket or whatever, and then they go with him to the Chocolate Factory.
And it's like a feature film?
Yeah.
Why did I hear nothing about that ever?
Well, I don't know if it was in theaters or if it was maybe...
It was just like a special or straight to video, something, yeah.
Yeah. It was in 2017, American animated direct-to-video musical comedy film starring the cat and mouse duo Tom and Jerry.
Interesting.
It was the final Tom and Jerry direct-to-video film to be involved with Warner Brothers animation founder Hal Gear, which is interesting.
That is rather interesting.
It basically just adapts the 1971 film, adds Tom and Jerry, and tells the story from their point of view. So maybe you should watch that version and not any other version. Maybe that's the version you should watch.
Just the Tom and Jerry, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? No thanks. To be honest, no thanks.
Oh, okay. Well, while we're talking about Garfunkel, let's go ahead and do another one of his facts.
Okay.
Garfunkel went 4 years without speaking.
Without speaking like at all?
Yeah. I doubt he went a full 4 years without even like uttering a sound, but he pretty much was mute for 4 years.
Like from birth or when he was a child? Like did this start sometime? I mean, it started sometime. What are you saying? When in his life did this happen?
When? Okay, so when is your question?
Yeah.
It was after one of their American tours. And after he already had a son.
So he's like full-grown adult doing his life.
Oh, yeah.
Why does he stop speaking?
Doctor's orders.
Oh, like a medical thing.
Yeah.
For 4 years?
Uh-huh.
Why? What happened?
To rest his vocal cords and heal his throat. So the full story here is after one of their American tours, Garfunkel was like, man, my throat is just like constantly scratchy.
Yeah.
And I can't hit the high notes I'm used to hitting. And, Simon's probably like, whatever, I'm not speaking to you.
give him the silent treatment.
Yeah. And then a few days later, he's eating lobster with his son.
Oh.
And choked on a piece of it, which prompted him to go see a doctor. And while they're checking him out to make sure he's okay after choking on some lobster, they're like, hey, you have this thing called vocal cord paresis, and you can't talk anymore.
And you have to shut up for 4 years.
And not just to Simon.
And not just to Paul Simon, to everybody.
It took 4 years to heal it. Yeah, it took 4 years for it to fully heal.
4 years is so long.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Like I said, there was probably, like, as he got better, able to talk a little more and more, but it was like 4 years of, like, try not to...
Pretty extreme vocal rest.
Yeah, exactly.
I know about this lobster thing, and I think this is a fact.
Thinks it's a fact.
4 years is a long time, but I definitely know that he choked on a lobster, and I'm going to say that it's true. Lock it in. Boom. Fact.
Wow. Locking it in. Not any hesitation.
I mean...
that their whole thing was not speaking to one another, or that I've been on a Tom and Jerry kick where they don't speak.
I mean, I
put in one true detail about lobster, and he's full speed ahead.
I definitely know the lobster's one true detail.
I wish you were like this more often.
Well, I know the lobster's one true detail. I think the rest of them are one true detail, too.
I'd be doing way better at this. This is, unfortunately for you... not unfortunate for you, because this is a true fact.
What are you doing? This is unfortunately for me, not unfortunate for me at all. That seems like it's good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, true fact. I'll take a true fact any day of the week, but especially recording days.
Yeah, it is indeed a true fact.
4 years. That's the part that I can't believe. I
really thought 4 years was going to make you go spin, just because there was like, I can't go 4 years. Like,
that's such a long time.
That's got to be too high.
Yeah.
If I knew you were going to go full speed ahead off a lobster, I would have like increased the number and made it a spin.
Maybe. I don't know.
I thought 4 years was going to get you to say spin on its own.
But boy, can I tell you, this sure does make me more anxious about eating lobster.
It's true. Maybe Simon did something to the lobster as his revenge.
Maybe this was a hit.
Speaking of Simon, do you know he was boycotted by the world?
Sure didn't. What does that mean?
Well, when you think of the world, like, what is, like, the biggest agency in the world? Like, the most worldly agency?
Agency?
Group, foundation.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're talking, like, governmentally, the United Nations?
The United Nations put Paul Simon on a boycott list.
The United Nations boycotted Paul Simon?
Sure did.
For what context? Like, boycotted his music or his shows?
Everything about him.
What? Everything about him?
Well, anything that would make him make money.
Sure. We're trying to financially hamper Paul Simon.
Heck yeah.
Why is the United Nations out to get Paul Simon? I feel like I should know this.
Well, obviously because he's participating in apartheid.
Of course.
Naturally.
When and where is Paul Simon participating in apartheid?
Well, in the 1980s in South Africa.
That's a pretty bad time and place to be to
be apartheiding.
Yeah. Well, how so? What's his participation look like?
Less so participation and more just guilty by association.
Oh, okay.
He went to South Africa, while South Africa was under a boycott for its involvement in apartheid. And so the UN said, ho, 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 you think you're just going to go hang out and live in South Africa, you apartheid lover? Boycott!
Slammed him with a boycott. Was it like a temporary thing until he left South Africa? Was it permanent? Did he get a chance to plead his case?
He did plead his case.
Successfully?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it was successful. I mean, I think both sides won.
Okay, how so?
He got his name removed from the list.
That's a Paul Simon win.
So that's his win. Yeah, and then the UN's win is that he got his name removed from the list by signing a letter and submitting it to the UN saying that he was only there to record his album Graceland and promised not to perform or make money in any way while in the country.
So they just got their clarification.
The UN got to say no money making.
Okay. Why is he in South Africa to record this record in the first place?
He just wanted to record some songs down there. I don't know.
Yes, why not?
Wanted to get in the spirit.
Sure. You think Paul Simon was sanctioned, boycotted by the entire United Nations. All the nations of the world united against Paul Simon. Not all of them. You get the idea.
Or at least whatever majority is needed to
Yeah.
to hit somebody with a boycott.
Can you imagine? I mean, what a bummer that would be.
Yeah.
You're just trying to do your job, and you suddenly get the entire world against you.
I'm going to petition the UN to boycott you. For not really any reasons, because I think it'd be cool. Imagine if I mean, okay, it would kind of suck, right, to be like slapped with a boycott, especially in relation to something like apartheid. But just imagine in the story, be like, hey, I've been boycotted by the UN. That's a pretty big flex.
Yeah, that's true.
But is any of this true? Really, actually, that's not the question. Is all of it true? Is the question you must answer.
It reminds me a lot of Billy Joel being at war with the Catholic Church. Just a large institution of note taking issue with an individual for something that may not really be an issue. And I think like that fact was back on episode 1. I think this one's a fact too. I think the world boycotted Paul Simon. Albeit briefly, I think he was sanctioned by the UN.
Well, this is where I must now tell you that Tom and Jerry was sanctioned by the
Oh
UN.
no, Tom and Jerry participated in apartheid. I knew it.
This is indeed a true fact.
Oh, thank goodness. Oh, wow.
But Tom and Jerry was indeed sanctioned. And that's kind of how I found this. I was looking for. I wanted all 4 of these to be based on Tom and Jerry. So I had the 2 that were obviously Tom and Jerry, like spins.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, Tom and Jerry don't speak. So Garfunkel's 4 years without speaking. That kind of counts. And so I was just looking for other Tom and Jerry related facts, and I went down this whole rabbit hole about how like people thought Tom and Jerry was too violent, and like we're petitioning to get it banned, and it got officially sanctioned.
Yeah. Well, what else is new?
And all these other things. And so then I'm just like, Simon and Garfunkel sanctions, and then that's when I found that Simon was boycotted.
Simon and Garfunkel saying, what a rabbit hole. What a random Google that just came up with a good hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you ever look that up?
That's how I find some of my best stuff.
Apparently.
That's how you find weird true facts about people.
What a surprise.
Yeah, this was a pseudo Tom and Jerry themed round of Fact and Spin.
Yeah, it was. I like Tom and Jerry. I've seen a lot of clips of it surfacing online lately. What a great cartoon.
It's good.
Get out of here, Mixtaper. We'll see you next week.
All right. Until then. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Welcome back, Connor.
I have returned.
Of course. Let's talk about the album cover of Bridge Over Troubled Water. You'll notice that there is neither bridge nor troubled water on the cover, and instead we only have whatever metaphorical troubled water exists between these 2 figures of Simon and Garfunkel.
They're the water that is troubled, and this album is the bridge.
Yeah, the last bridge spanning the 2 of them, keeping them together, shore to shore, deep. What an image.
It's a weird one.
First of all, what a haircut on Paul Simon.
That's why I chose him to be, not only that, that he likes to do more of the acting stuff, but that's part of why I chose him to be the Gene Wilder counterpart, because kind of got some similar hair stuff going on.
Yeah, I also kind of thought that when the Mixtaper said the Willy Wonka thing. I was like, maybe he just thinks that Garfunkel looks like Gene Wilder.
They both have interesting haircuts, to be fair.
Yeah, they do. And Garfunkel looks like he wants to murder someone.
Well, I think that's just because you can't see his mouth, and so...
His mouth, absolutely, that's what it is. Simon is uselessly wearing the scarf.
I don't know about useless.
Well, it's keeping the back of his neck warm. But, like, so much of it is going to waste.
Yeah, the classic American.
Right. Yeah, I like the shade of blue that they write their name in. That's nice.
It's okay.
But there they are, Simon Garfunkel. I question a lot of Paul Simon's haircuts over these early years, but it's fine. Without further ado, let's hit it. Up first is the
title track.
Yeah, it was the last song recorded, but the first one finished, and that is Bridge Over Troubled Water. As a little reminder, Bridge Over Troubled Water, the song, earned 5 Grammys in 1971, including Record and Song of the Year. It also topped the Hot 100 in the US for 6 weeks. It topped the charts in 4 other countries and broke the top 5 in 8 others. And today, Bridge Over Troubled Water has gone 6 times platinum, and it's number 48 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. Top 50.
Pretty high.
Does this sound like one of the top 50 songs of all time to you?
I don't know if I would put it there.
Would it be in the top 500 for you?
That's too hypothetical.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I don't know if I could name 500 songs.
Maybe not off the top of your head, but if you went back and listened to all the episodes, you could probably just...
Yeah, I just mean, like, I don't know if it would make the top 500 because this isn't one I would think of if I had to write down 500 songs.
It doesn't come to mind.
Yeah. Which, doesn't speak anything for how good it is or not, just that I wouldn't think of it.
That's fair. Well, how good is it?
It sucks. No, okay.
Wow. Maybe the bottom 500, huh? Try bottom 50, Rolling Stone.
Hey, if I had to name one song that would bottom my list, I've got one. No. I prefer their peppier stuff.
Really? The ballad guy didn't like the gospel piano ballad?
No, it's good. I don't know about first track.
Fair. It feels more like a closer.
A closer, or even if you really wanted it at the beginning of the album, just don't make it number 1.
It's a little too much of a climax, I think, for it to be number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. It kind of brings the album to an early peak, and then the rest of the album feels like it struggles to keep up with this.
Uh-huh.
That's a good point.
I'm full of them.
The Mixtaper wasn't. Heyo, get it? Because I got all the points.
He got one.
He did get one good point. But Paul Simon did indeed write Bridge Over Troubled Water. The title was inspired by a line in the song Mary Don't You Weep by the Swan Silvertones. The line is, I'll be your bridge over deep water if you trust in my name. So a little religious inspiration, which is perfect for the gospel style. And he blended that with a little bit of Bach.
He just can't stop talking about his friend Dark.
Yeah, they're really good friends.
So were him and Garfunkel at one point in time, but...
Well, maybe he's not friends with Darkness anymore. Just like he's not friends with Garfunkel anymore.
Oh, I'm sure.
What was interesting about this song is that it popped up out of nowhere for Paul Simon. He said, it came all of a sudden. It was one of the most shocking moments in my songwriting career. I remember thinking, this is considerably better than I usually write. So how about that? He was like gifted a really good song.
How about that?
Originally, too, he only had 2 verses, but he felt like the song was too short. So while they were recording the song, they just recorded the instrumentals for the 3rd verse. So they had it there, and then he wrote the lyrics in for it afterwards, which is kind of unusual. They made the 3rd verse before a 3rd verse existed.
Interesting.
Lyrically, Simon wrote it about his wife, Peggy, but Art Garfunkel sings the lead. He wanted Simon to do it, but Simon refused, which is a decision he would later come to regret. Simon said he felt that I should have done it, and many times on a stage, though, when I'd be sitting off to the side and Artie would be singing Bridge, people would stomp and cheer when it was over, and I would think, that's my song, man. He was upset that he gave the song to Garfunkel. Sad. It also features a cool dual bass part and a horn section, which is awesome. Big old gospel ballad with a horn section. They even recorded the drums in an echo chamber, so they had a really big resonant sound. And the end result, Simon said, was actually almost like the Beatles' Let It Be. He said they're very similar songs in instrumentation. And I don't know if I'd quite make that comparison. But instrumentation, sure, I get that.
Sure.
I really like his voice on this one, though. I think Art does sing the crap out of it.
No, yeah, I like their voices. It was a good song. I mean, don't get me wrong. Just didn't like it in spot number 1.
Yeah, that makes sense. And again, I think I agree with that a little bit. It's just, it's a lot right off the bat. You don't get any time to warm up to this album before you're hitting its high points.
I did like the way it started. I hit play and I was like, ooh, good start. But then what it turned into, I was like, ugh, not so good a start.
So is this a song you didn't know before?
I've maybe heard other versions of it. The title was familiar, but I didn't recognize the song.
There's definitely other versions. I mean, the song's been covered a ton, right? Aretha Franklin, Elvis, Johnny Cash, they've all covered this. It's hard to not have crossed paths with it at some point. But yeah, it's certainly not the same as a lot of their peppier, more upbeat stuff. But we don't get to that for a while yet. We have to make it all the way through track 2 as well. El Condor Pasa, if I could. How about that?
That was my name, according to my sister, when she was younger.
What, Condor?
Yeah.
Instead of Connor, you were Condor?
She couldn't say my name properly. Call me Condor.
Like a big old bird.
Yep.
Wild. Speaking of Johnny Cash, yeah, remember when he almost killed all the condors by lighting his camper on fire?
Yeah.
El Condor Pasa. Like the condor passes away. Thankfully, it's not like that.
I realized I missed a very comedic moment right there when you said, what, Condor? I should have said, no, El Paso.
Yeah, you should have. Well, live and learn, man. Would have been good, but unfortunately, it was not meant to be. Well, this is a Peruvian song written in 1913.
What'd you just call me?
Peruvian. Well, I didn't call you Peruvian. I called the song Peruvian because it is. You, on the other hand, having not originated from and never even been to Peru, are certainly not Peruvian.
Don't know if I agree with that.
But yeah, this is a Peruvian song. It's old. Simon and Garfunkel are just one of an estimated 4,000 different versions of this melody. That's not an exaggeration. That's like a genuine estimate. 4,000 versions of this song exist. Today, it's Peru's unofficial second national anthem. Not the Simon and Garfunkel version, just El Condor Pasa in general. It was originally written for a 2-act musical play based on traditional Andean music. And Paul Simon first found it when it was performed by Los Incas, which was a Parisian group, right? A group from Paris that was dedicated to Andean folk music. He loved the song and he loved the band. He actually even would go on tour with them and produce their first American release. But he heard them play the song and he said, hey, I really love that. Do you mind if I cover that? And the band said, yeah, of course you could cover this song. They agreed to it, which was the wrong move. It turns out they had no right to give Paul Simon permission to use the song. It had a copyright that was still in place in like the 1930s for the arrangement. So Simon actually eventually got amicably sued for using the song without crediting the proper songwriters and copyright owners. It was actually the son of the original songwriter that wrote the song in 1913. He's the one that brought the lawsuit. He said, it was an almost friendly court case because Paul Simon was very respectful of other cultures. It was not carelessness on his part. He liked it, he went to ask the band for permission, and they gave him the wrong information. So yeah, he took this traditional song and wrote a set of English lyrics to sing over the instrumental. And the instrumental track on this song was actually played by Los Incas, the band that he first heard it from.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really nice. What'd you think of it?
I liked it.
Me too.
I think this is more what I expected this album to start.
Yeah, with that ambient kind of strummed guitar, I really like that. The opening of El Condor Pasa. And it's got such a good melody throughout. If I could, that's such a catchy sing-alongable part.
It's true.
I almost wish the song had a little more punch to it, though. It does feel a little soft and gentle all the way through. It is pretty beautiful, though. I really think it's a special song. It did go to number 18 on the US Pop Singles chart and number 6 on the Easy Listening chart, because that's how easy to listen to it is. Well, if you want an upbeat song, then, if Bridge Over Troubled Water was too much and El Condor Pasa was good but maybe not enough, what about Cecilia?
That one I recognized, and it was great.
Yeah?
Big fan of Cecilia.
Me too. It's another hit, for sure. And they actually created it from an accident. They were partying with friends one night. They had a tape recorder, and they had some fun reverb effects. So they laid down this beat with a guitar case and claps and slaps and snaps and all these other percussive sounds. They were just grooving with this rhythm for more than 8 minutes. And they got into the studio and they said, hey, we like this. We like this little rhythm section. What can you do with this? So they put a loop about a minute long of that rhythm on the tape. And that's what became the backing for Cecilia. And it's pretty cool. Like you're just hearing them fooling around at a party in the background of this song. They did record the rest of the song, though, in a proper studio. Not all of it was tape recorder stuff. They still also, though, continue to do a lot of weird stuff. Like they hit random notes on a xylophone. Not specific notes, not in tune with the song, just random notes that they then compressed beyond recognition so you couldn't even hear what note it was. They dropped drumsticks on the floor to make clatter sounds. They just kind of went for it. And they even recruited Hal Blaine from the Wrecking Crew to do more drums on Cecilia. It's just so peppy.
I really like the line, I got up to wash my face. When I come back to bed, someone's taken my place.
Yeah, the song, whew, lyrically, what a time. It's about a guy who's getting cheated on.
Very brazenly.
Yeah, right. Like in the same house at the same time. Wild. The name, though, actually just refers to the Catholic Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music, which people speculate might be a reference to how hard it was for him to write songs. Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. I'm begging you, please come home. Like, it's taking me so long to write songs. Patron saint of music, please give me more music to write. But that's mostly speculative. Who knows? Cecilia did go to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it was on the chart for 13 weeks. It is certified gold in the US and the UK. Honestly, one of my more favorite songs on the album. I would trend this towards the top half.
Keep the Customer Satisfied did not start the way I thought it was going to.
No? No, maybe not. After the snaps, claps, and rhythm of Cecilia, I mean, they jump right into it with the lyrics on "Keep the Customer Satisfied."
Yeah, well, it's just like, and just instantly, the first couple notes before the instruments come in kind of take you down one path and then jerk you the other way when all of a sudden the instruments come in and they harmonize on "Home."
Yeah, it is. It's a little jerk. It's a little bit of a rockabilly flavor.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. Very Everly Brothers inspired. And what's interesting about it is it seems to actually have had more success as a cover from artists like Gary Puckett and Marsha Hunt. This is the original version, but I don't think the Simon & Garfunkel version ever charted. It just was the B-side to Bridge Over Troubled Water, and I don't think it really got much traction. But that's funny, because I really liked the song. It's short, but it is a pretty fun one.
Yeah, I like the instruments on this one.
There's a lot of good guitar in this. Of course, that's what I like about it. It's got a good, steady rhythm to it. And the vocal harmonies. It's got a couple of horn blats. I always really love those. I get slandered, blap, libeled, blap. Like, that's so much fun. It's a good song. It's about how hard and exhausting it is to satisfy a hungry audience who wants more music and live shows and stuff. You got to keep the customer satisfied and then never speak again, you know. But up next is a song called So Long, Frank Lloyd Wright. I mean, what'd you expect? Garfunkel went to school to be an architect. Of course he was going to want a song about one of the most famous modern architects on this album. You know Frank Lloyd Wright, right?
Right.
Correct. Right. Oh, man. Basically what happened is Garfunkel went to Simon and said, hey, I really like this architect, and it'd be really cool if we wrote a tribute song to Frank Lloyd Wright, don't you think? And Simon was like, yeah, buddy, that would be awesome. I don't know anything in the world about Frank Lloyd Wright. And so he pivoted, and basically what Simon does is he writes a song about Garfunkel. This is a career retrospective about the band, talking about their history, their future, their impending breakup. This is a breakup song for Art Garfunkel.
Oh, no.
And all he does is change the name Garfunkel to Frank Lloyd Wright. Like, it's so much so about them that at the end, the song's engineer, Roy Halley, yells out, so long already, Artie, like directly says so long to Art Garfunkel in the song. And that's wild, right? In its own, like, if that was just a fact, that would be wild. But what's even more unbelievable is that Garfunkel, who sang the lead vocal on this song, didn't even realize it was a song about him until years later.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, right. I can't even wrap my head around. How do you sing a song about your own band breaking up in that band where someone yells so long Artie at the end of it and not like pick up on, hey, maybe there's a little bit of a deeper meaning here, a little double entendre. Musically, this song has been classified as Latin jazz and even bossa nova, which I think is cool. There's congas, there's flutes, a classical guitar, a whole suite of instruments, which is great. But like, what do you think of the music on Frank Lloyd Wright? It's a standout track on this album for me. Not like in a way that it's like, wow, blows me away like a standout, just in that it sticks out from the pack because it's like so soft. If you thought like Bridge Over Troubled Water started soft or El Condor Pasa had soft moments, So Long Frank Lloyd Wright is like, this album almost stalls out.
Well, and I kind of like their relationship was.
Yeah, well, that's true. So Long Frank Lloyd Wright is very slow and sentimental, just like Simon is for Artie.
Another one that I really liked was The Boxer.
Oh, did you really? The first track on side 2. We made it to the back half. The Boxer was a surprise for me. I hadn't heard it prior to picking up this album for the first time, and I was similarly blown away.
It starts so fun.
Yeah, it does.
With the doodle-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. And then their voices come in. I am just a poor boy, though my story seldom told. It has such a fun cadence to it.
Yeah, it's got a great rhythm. It's so well written.
I also misheard one of the lyrics.
Oh, really?
And the mixtaper got excited.
Why?
Well, he said for a pocket full of mumbles, but I heard thimbles. Pocket full of thimbles.
Oh. Why would that be what they said?
I don't. Well, why would he say for a pocket full of mumbles? You don't put mumbles in a pocket.
It's poetic license.
I've squandered my resistance for a pocket full of thimbles. Well, maybe thimbles were a hot commodity.
Never. One thing that's interesting about The Boxer is it's been called Simon & Garfunkel's most produced song.
Oh.
In their whole catalog. Yeah. By some estimates, they spent over 100 hours recording this.
Oh, wow.
Spread over about a month in a few studios between New York and Nashville.
I'll be honest, you keep telling me all this stuff, and it really makes me understand why it wasn't fun.
Right? Yeah, you want to sit here and sing these notes one at a time?
Imagine spending 100 hours for 5 minutes of work.
You want to sit here and play this song dozens of times for 100 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, I might start to hate the person I'm working with too if I had to do that.
Grumble, grumble. And I do think Paul Simon was really a perfectionist about some of his work, a little persnickety and, just trying to make sure they got it right.
I mean, there are like artists spitting out whole albums in less time than it took them to do this one song.
Yeah. Think about how many episodes we could make in 100 hours of podcasting.
About 50.
A ton. Yeah, it's a ton. And they make one little song. But what's interesting too is it's a song that established Simon and Garfunkel as the very first band to dabble in 16-track recording, too.
Oh.
Nobody else had done it until The Boxer.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know, right? It features an awesome snare drum. They've got a bass harmonica in there, which I didn't really know was a thing, and all kinds of other stuff. You know what they did to make that snare drum sound so incredible?
What?
Well, they recorded it in front of an elevator shaft, much like we talked about with the Wu-Tang Clan, right? They wanted a really loud, snappy snare drum, so they set it up in an elevator. And what Simon and Garfunkel did was they put on headphones, right? Played the song through headphones and recorded the snare in time with it. And at one point, a security guard got off the elevator at the wrong time, and he got so startled, one heck of a jump scare, because they just went crack and smacked that cymbal in between a lie, whatever it was. But it was intense, too. I found another good quote from guitarist Fred Carter Jr. about all the lengths that they went to for recording. He said, "On my guitar, they had me mic'd with about 7 mics. They had a near mic, a distant mic, a neck mic, a mic on the hole. They even mic'd my breathing. They mic'd the guitar in the back." He said, "I was breathing pretty heavy in rhythm, and they wanted to take out that noise. And they took it out and said, no, we got to leave that in. It almost sounds like a rhythm on the record." So they left the breathing mic on for the final mix. 7 microphones on one guitar, and on Fred Carter's breathing is what you hear on the Boxer.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. Carter also said, "I never heard the total record until I heard it on the air. I thought that's the greatest record I heard in my life, especially after the scrutiny and after all the time they spent on it and breaking it apart musically and sound-wise. There was some magic in the studio that day, and Roy Halley captured it. Paul and I had a really nice groove." And it really is a good record, man. Oh, the Boxer is top tier. Lyrically, it's also pretty interesting. It's about a boxer, as the title implies, but it's kind of dually inspired by personal experience and biblical anecdotes. It's about the struggles of poverty and loneliness all wrapped into one. Paul said, "I was reading the Bible around that time. That's where I think phrases such as workman's wages came from, and maybe pocket full of mumbles too." I'm interjecting. Perhaps. And he said, "That was biblical. I think the song was about me. Everybody's beating me up, and I'm telling you now I'm going to go away if you don't stop." By that time, we had encountered our first criticism. For the first few years, it was just pure praise. It took 2 or 3 years for people to realize that we weren't strange creatures that emerged from England, but just 2 guys from Queens who used to sing rock and roll. And maybe we weren't real folkies at all. Maybe we weren't even hippies. So they started to get pushback from the crowds too. And that's what led to the song about feeling isolated and picked on and critiqued. The first 2 verses, right, they're told in first person and they're more autobiographical. The last verse switches to third person and is way more Boxer focused. What'd you think of the chorus, the Lila Lies?
I like the Lila Lies.
I like them a lot too.
That's no lie.
I like the Lila Lies. And that's no lie. That's fun. It was actually supposed to be a placeholder lyric, right? He just sang something there to fill the space until he could write better lyrics, and he just could never come up with anything. Lila Lie stuck. And then people started to misinterpret that. Paul Simon said, "I just didn't have any words." Then people said it was lie, but I didn't really mean that, like that it was a lie, that it was false. But he said that not having lyrics for that part wasn't a failure of songwriting because people liked that and they put enough meaning into it. And the rest of the song has enough power and emotion, I guess, to make it go. So it's all right. But for me, every time I sing that part, I'm a little embarrassed. He got a little embarrassed that he couldn't come up with lyrics for that. I kind of think that's fun. Also fun trivia, Art Garfunkel met his first wife, Linda, while they were in the studio working on the Boxer. He said, "It took us about 3 years before I had the courage to ask her to marry me." And then following that up with a 1975 divorce, he said that he never really loved her. Oh well, Lila Lie. Up next is Baby Driver. It was the B-side to the Boxer, and it sure is another one of my favorite songs from this album.
Yeah? You like Baby Driver?
I like Baby Driver a lot. This got some of the most fun lead guitar parts on the record. It's super cool. It's about a boy who lives this charmed life, right? Safe and comfortable, but he strikes out on his own in search of adventure, adult adventure, in fact, and he starts getting into some trouble. So, lyrically the song is an interesting one, but musically, boy, is it entertaining. I love some of the Beach Boy-inspired songs, the peppy rhythm, the good backbeat, the harmonies. are good here as they are everywhere. And they use hand claps really well again. Kind of like Cecilia, but less echoey and rhythmic tricky. Just straightforward claps. What did you think of Baby Driver?
It didn't stand out to me, actually.
Really? Why not?
I don't know. I mean, it was an okay song. It didn't make the top 3. I mean, it probably top 50.
Well,
50%
top
of the
50
album.
of 11, yeah.
Well, sorry, top 50% of the album. Upper half.
Okay.
But it didn't quite make the top 3.
I don't think it would be in my top 3 maybe either.
I don't know, just the way you started, you were like, oh, I really loved it.
Well, I do really love it, but I don't know, top 3, I don't know. Have you seen the movie Baby Driver from 2017?
Oh, yeah, I have actually. I was going to make a joke about that, but I figured you hadn't seen it, and so I didn't.
Well, you'd be correct in figuring that I haven't seen it. That's true. But I do know that this song inspired the movie, at least the title of it. And in fact, it gets featured in the end credits. They play Simon and Garfunkel at the end of that movie. So maybe if you stayed through the credits, you already knew the song.
I didn't watch it like in the theaters. I just watched it when it was on and had nothing else to watch.
Oh, I see. I didn't choose to watch Baby Driver. It just happened. Well, up next is The Only Living Boy in New York, the B-side to Cecilia, and another song Simon wrote about Garfunkel, right? Art went down to Mexico to be in Catch-22, the movie that Simon got cut from, and he left Simon all alone in New York City. He was lonely, and The Only Living Boy in New York is his little sad boy heartbreak ballad. I miss my best buddy. If only he knew what the future years had in store, I guess. But he puts Garfunkel in this song as Tom, right? A reference to their Tom and Jerry days. Let your honesty shine like it shines on me, he says. I think it's beautiful. I think it's got another really strong melody, and that's what I like about it. It's pretty simple, but pretty powerful.
I really liked The Only Living Boy in New York.
Yeah, I thought so. I figured one of these ballads would finally break through to you.
Again, I liked Bridge Over Troubled Water, just not as the opening freaking track.
Yeah. It's just funny. It feels backwards. Like, this album, to me, is almost most memorable for its ballad moments. And it seems like you like the more upbeat stuff, you said.
That's just like what I associate Simon and Garfunkel with, right?
Okay, that's fair.
It's the hello darkness, my old friend. Like, that's just like what I associate with them.
You think that's the more upbeat stuff?
Just that plunky little rhythm, yeah.
Okay.
It's a pretty plunky, listen, it's way more upbeat than Disturbed version of the song.
Than their version, I guess. Yeah. What do you think about all the backing vocals on The Only Living Boy in New York? They're pretty remarkable.
Yeah. They are pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
I have marked them and marked them again.
Right.
Remarked them.
They recorded them actually in an echo chamber. It was themselves in an echo chamber, and apparently they multi-tracked it like 8 times. They estimate that it's something like 15 voices doing the big section of Oz, which I think is awesome. I think it just sounds great. I think it's just another really well-constructed song. Nice little guitar, nice little singing. That's all it really needs. It's just a gentle touch. Not too much. But now I got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're willing to answer it. Why don't you write me?
I'd prefer to fax.
Fax. Why don't you fax me? Yeah, that's a whole different song.
That's what Kanye says to Jay-Z.
To Jay-Z, why don't you fax me anymore? Why Don't You Write Me is an interesting one. It's a song that Simon wrote for his wife. They were physically separated for a while, doing a little long distance. And in the song, he talks about a jungle. I cannot tell if one of them was literally in a jungle or not. I wish that was the case. But probably it's more accurate to say that he's talking about the concrete jungle of New York City. But that's not as cool or as fun as someone being in a literal jungle. It's a really interesting track. It's actually Paul Simon's very first attempt to mess around with reggae, something he would try a few more times to varying degrees of success in the future. I think it's got a fun little kind of groove to it because of that.
I do think this one's groovy.
Yeah.
And both that I like it, like, oh, this is groovy.
This is groovy, hip, cool.
And also that it grooves.
Yeah, it does groove. I don't have too much to say about it other than it's really fun. Why Don't You Write Me is a good pick-me-up, I think. And then the album kind of goes to a whole new uncharted territory, for this record at least, with Bye Bye Love, but it's live at Memorial Auditorium. It's a live cover. Does that feel out of place to you? I'm always surprised when I hear the song start and it's live and there's cheers and an audience. Like, this album feels largely pretty intimate up to this point, and then suddenly there's thousands of people here screaming, and that kind of shocks me every time.
Not really, because their live sound and their recorded sound isn't really that different.
Well, them, yeah, I guess it's not.
Like their style of music, they work in both settings, unlike something that's way more, I don't want to say produced, because they put a lot of production hours into these songs.
Well, it's just, they don't have auto-tune, right? Everything they're dubbing, everything they're singing.
Yeah.
They're singing it live, pretty much.
And they don't have, they don't have fake instruments that they can put in there that then they don't want to have on stage.
It's not a very synthy album. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You won't even find a piano on here, hardly. That's fair. Well, Bye Bye Love, of course, is maybe a song that you knew. I don't know if you knew Simon and Garfunkel's Bye Bye Love, but you might know the Everly Brothers' Bye Bye Love. It was first published in 1957, and it was their debut song. The Everly Brothers version was huge. It made the Grammy Hall of Fame, and it's another of Rolling Stone's 500 greatest songs of all time. Paul Simon, of course, loved the Everly Brothers version, and most of everything about the Everly Brothers he loved. He kept the record on repeat when he was younger, just spun Bye Bye Love till it wore out. This version, of course, is live. They played it at Memorial Auditorium in Ames, Iowa. And the first time they played it, they weren't running the tape, but the audience was clapping along, the energy was up, and they loved it. So they said, we're going to do that a second time, and we're going to record it. So they did it another time, played it back to back, and the audience clapped along again, and they got a good recording out of it. Kind of spontaneous.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and that's what made it onto the record, that second version with the clapping and the energy and stuff. I think that's really cool, that they recognized in the moment that it had such potential. I think a lot of times people go into a concert, you plan out, oh, we're going to make this a live album, we better record this show or that show or however many takes of whatever. But they just kind of did it on the spot, which is really unique. And up last to close us out, the short little minute and 50-second song for the asking. The final Simon and Garfunkel song until they tried, that couple of songs later that didn't work.
Yeah, not a throuple.
No, this was the last good, official, legit, effective Simon and Garfunkel song. And what's really kind of sweet, for as much turmoil, as much troubled water as they had in their future, Song for the Asking really is kind of the bridge. It's their olive branch to one another. Their split is imminent. They know they're about to break up. It's an amicable split at the time. They'd obviously go on to work together for decades, on and off, and they just couldn't collaborate like this. But this is their song kind of saying, man, I wish things were different. I wish it didn't have to be this way. And that is really cool. I think that's a really touching and moving way to sunset this record and their career. Not a lot of lyrics, not a lot of chorus, not a lot of anything, really. It is short and kind of a minimalist track, but I think that's what makes it land so heavily.
Yeah, but I kind of like it.
Me too. They also did record a few other songs that got cut from the record. Songs like Cuba C, Nixon No, a timely political track that would have really dated the album. They recorded a song called, I don't know how to pronounce this, it's French, Feuille O. They recorded a song called Groundhog. All those things have come out, right? They've been released since, but they got cut from the final version of this record, both for quality's sake and for time. So that's interesting. Anyway, are you ready to do some final spin?
I don't know. I think we should say it's the final spin, but then spin 2 more times later.
Yeah, right. This is the final spin, and then a couple years later we'll come back and do another one, and then never speak again.
And then never spin again.
Never spin again. It is no spin-vember. I don't know. Sorry.
Told you it was going to stick.
It's not sticking. It's not sticking. Let's do scores. I'm giving the music on Bridge Over Troubled Water an 88. I really like Paul Simon's writing ability. The man has a knack for ballads. The man has a way to pull at your heartstrings through melody that I think is unique. I don't know if a lot of other artists could do as much emotionally with their music alone as Paul Simon does. If you were to listen to these songs instrumentally, you'd still feel the emotional weight that they're conveying, and that's really cool. I also like the varied inspirations, right? Whether he's doing gospel fusion, whether he's doing Everly Brothers or Beach Boys ripoffs, whether he's taking, 20th century Peruvian musical songs, whatever he's doing, he's able to work it into a track that lands. And it's a little bit all over the place, but it makes an album that's memorable for that. It doesn't get stale because the next track is something totally different. And they all have his thumbprint on them, which helps keep them kind of in line. 88 for music. Lyrics, I'm giving a 90. It's weird to write a breakup album about the band that you're writing a breakup album with, and I just think that makes this record really unique. It's kind of the closer on a career that was really notable and really cool. So I'm giving lyrics a 90, especially for things like The Boxer, Song for the Asking, The Only Living Boy in New York, Bridge Over Troubled Water. We hit some lyrical high points here. Instruments and production, I'm giving an 88. I think the album sounds a little bit old. I don't think it's aged the best, but I really admire all their production tricks, and the meticulousness with which they crafted this album. It's not lost on me. 100 hours for The Boxer, 50 hours into Bridge Over Trouble. They did so much for so long to try and get the production right. So 88 for that. Overall vibe, 95. I really think this is a kick-butt album. I think it's a great place to start for Simon and Garfunkel, and it's a shame that it was the place to end for Simon and Garfunkel. I mean, sounds like it wouldn't have worked, but imagine what they could have done if they kept going. What might have been.
Imagine.
Yeah. So its overall score, Bridge Over Troubled Waters getting a 91.0, which puts it at number 72 on my list. Lands it above Phil Collins and No Jacket Required.
Wow, top 100.
And it lands it below John Batiste, our Grammy winner from year one with We Are.
Wow.
91. Yeah, I really enjoyed this album. It was a kind of a gem in my albums of the month way back in the day. I really enjoyed discovering it. I mean, I knew of Simon and Garfunkel, and I knew The Sound of Silence and Mrs. Robinson and the biggies, you know, but this was really cool to dig in and see some of the deeper cuts and biggies that I didn't realize were biggies.
Fair enough.
Yeah. How troubled is your water?
It's a little more troubled than yours.
I kind of got that impression. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I'm thinking my waters were, probably, if I had to put a number on it, 6, I would say, and how troublesome my waters were.
6 troubled waters. Wow. What's your unit?
Yeah. Well, and yeah, you gotta have a good unit to understand how troublesome the water is, right? I mean, 6 what?
6 what?
So I'm thinking Funkle Gars.
Funkle Gars. Like the fish?
Yeah, but like the fun uncle fish. The one that lets the kid fish skip school.
Skip school? Good grief. Funkle Gar. All right.
I don't know.
Funkle Gars. 6 Funkle Gars for Simon and Garfunkel. Your unit has no love for Paul Simon, but that's okay. He's got enough love for himself, it sounds like. 6, huh?
Yeah, that's 6.
What didn't get it done for you?
I think the songs that weren't their bigger hits just kind of were,
Lesser.
lukewarm. They were lukewarm for me.
Wow. You must know some cold Lukes.
Not like bad or anything, just not great either. Puts it middle of the pack in the 6s.
Well, fair enough.
It's gonna go right above. We'll put it right above Ice Kills.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's a strange comparison to make.
Yeah.
Well, fun. So if you like the bigger hits, then what are your top 3 looking like?
My top 3 in album order. Bridge Over Troubled Water. Didn't like its position on the album, but still liked it enough to give it top 3.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cecilia, obviously. The Boxer. And honorable mention to The Only Living Boy in New York.
Okay. It was a ballad that stuck then.
Yeah. My playlist pick is going to be Cecilia. Hands down. Easy.
Hands down.
Big fan.
Cecilia's pretty good. They put a lot of hands down on that recording, which means the second pick is all up to me. Well, you're breaking my heart. You're shaking my confidence daily. No question for me either. It's The Boxer.
All right, that's what I was hoping you were going to pick. Cecilia and The Boxer. Woo!
The Boxer was just, for me, it was such a discovery moment. I had heard Bridge Over Troubled Water. It didn't, blow me away. It was about what I thought it would be. And Cecilia was a hit. It was great. All these other songs are really interesting, but The Boxer, I mean, truly, is something special. It's like the crown jewel of this album. If Bridge Over Troubled Water's not, I mean, that's where you gotta land. So, there you have it. That's a Simon and Garfunkel episode. But guess what? That's not the last episode we'll do. We'll be back next week for more fun times and cool stuff.
Whoa!
I know.
How can they stay up to date on all the fun times and cool stuff going on?
You can stay up to date on all the fun times and cool stuff going on by visiting us on social media. At SpinItPod on Instagram, at SpinItPod on Twitter. I mean, X. My goodness, it's been such a long time. On X. And you can find us on the web at www.spinitpod.com. All the goods are over there. And, of course, be sure to like, follow, rate, subscribe. Do all the fun things wherever you listen to podcasts, because the podcast will be there, just like it's here where you're listening now.
Tune in next time to hear me say something stupid.
Not stupid necessarily, just silly.
Hey, tell a friend who you want to boycott about the podcast.
Tell a friend that you want the United Nations to boycott about the podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Really bring the hammer down.
Report a friend to the United Nations and then tell them you did that, and to give them context, show them this episode.
Yeah, when they ask why, refer them to the Simon and Garfunkel episode of Spin It Pod.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. We'll see you next week. We got another record coming up. We got another episode coming up. We got another week coming up. And until then,
keep spinning.
I'm proud of you. Your power managed to stay on the entire rest of the episode.
That's what you think.
That's what I know, right?
I was podcasting with my friend.
Darkness, your old friend.
Yeah.
No joke. Actually, though, 2 of the light bulbs in my room burn out today at the same time. And so I'm half in darkness right now.
I mean, I am in darkness, other than my computer monitors.
You just turn off all the lights when you record? Do you always do that?
I don't turn a lot of lights on in my apartment.
You just live in darkness?
It's my old friend.
It really is your old friend. What?
Not a lot of need to have my electric bill nice and low.
Yeah, because your power keeps cutting out.
All right, let's not talk.
Well, like, only until we play the Coliseum.